I have a number of things going, and one of them is called Heal Plus Create, and that's a holistic sort of wellness, um, creativity membership community. And we do events and a lot of virtual events, member sessions, things like that. And then I'm the co-founder of a writingroom.com, which is a rapidly growing app-based community, and we do major events with prominent speakers and teachers in the writing field and creativity fields. So to say I'm wearing a lot of hats is an understatement. And I think what's surprising about that is that working with Katuva has allowed me to wear those hats a lot more lightly. So I'm actually doing way more than I was before, and it's requiring a lot less of my time and a lot less of my stress. And I'm a writer. So I'm a writer and an author and a speaker. And so I have, that side of things that often can get brushed to the side in the middle of building a larger organization. And so this work has allowed me to place some of my focus back on those things, which are the underlying fuel for a lot of what I do. I think, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I had the psychosis that said, if I know how to do things, then I shouldn't use of my available capital to pay other people to do them, at least in an early stage. And I came across Katuva, I think about 2 years after I'd started an enterprise, and it was going well, but I was doing everything. I bet a lot of people can relate to that. And so I wasn't 100% sure if I could afford an assistant. And so when I started to look at the things I could take off my plate a bit at a time, and honestly, I had no idea how many things I could take off my plate. And that's where Katuva, I feel like, has such an amazing process. I didn't want to just add another expense without confidence that it would actually more than pay off. And so, when Katuva showed up and said, look, we're going to train you on how to best use a virtual assistant, that was astonishing. And that was really what sold me, because I hadn't had an assistant for 20 years. I had left the finance business a long time ago, and I'd been doing a lot of things, again, just solo entrepreneur style. And so I vaguely remembered how good it was to have an assistant, but it had been a lot of years. And so I had redeveloped a lot of bad habits. So it made an enormous difference that y'all had a proven process and could show me, and that you use, research data-driven things such as personality tests to match the right assistant with the right person. So yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start for me because I was so used to doing everything. And your assistant was so kind. I said, you're probably going to have to train me in this. And in terms of how to best work with you, because I'm so used to not doing it well. And, that's been almost exactly a year ago. And I am genuinely astonished by how much difference has happened in my life, in my business. I really love the Eisenhower matrix. A lot of people relate to or remember Stephen Covey talking about this, the four quadrants: urgent and important, not urgent but important. I think one of the biggest impacts I've experienced on a 30,000-foot level is that my VA handles so much of the urgent and important quadrant one activity. And it took me a while to get used to realizing, oh, I actually have time to spend over here in not urgent but important, which is, I know we all know this, that's where the gold is. So specifically, not 30,000-foot level, my VA manages my inboxes. And I have, like many entrepreneurs, I have several. She's brought those into line, and I am astonished. I've never had this in my life, or at least not for 20 some years. I'm at inbox zero every single day, usually before noon. That addiction to checking the email, to responding, to making sure everybody's taken care of, all that stuff, it doesn't leave time, and it doesn't allow me to move into the brainwave state. Cal Newport talks about deep work. It doesn't allow me to move into the deeper work, which is where the real value that I bring to the world lives. And so my VA handles my inbox. Anytime someone says, "Hey, can I get a meeting with you?" It took me a while, but I eventually realized, oh, that is my VA's job. And so she runs my entire calendar. I don't add things to the calendar without asking her unless it's actually urgent and important. So it's rare. And I've also been surprised by how good she is and competent with outreach. So, as a writer, as a speaker, I had never really had an effective podcast outreach. And she went and did a bunch of research, found the right podcasts, and we built a template, and she started reaching out, and she placed me on, I think, 12 podcasts within the first 6 months. Yeah. And it was astonishing. And I've hired PR agents before, and I've never experienced that level of effectiveness. I'm getting ready to do a whole nother round of outreach to influencers, publishers in my field to form strategic alliances, and she'll use the same process for that. She handles a lot of responses to my member community, and I just don't have to think about are things being handled. And that by itself, that part of my brain that was always on thinking, okay, what's being missed? What do I need to jump in and handle? Actually has begun to relax. And so I find more and more of my day spent in that quadrant too, which is where legacy lives. It's where, you know, those things we always want to create in our businesses, but just never quite get to. It's like, yeah, man, it would be so great to have this program or this outreach in place. And it's just, yeah, but I have so much, so many fires to put out today. That has subsided to the degree that I am living in a state of peace of mind, and creative depth that I was parched for. It felt like I might never get back to being able to sink in and really do the work that I love to do. So that part has been astonishing. And on the practical life side, I get to take better care of my body. I'm sleeping better. It's going to start sounding like some sort of paid advertisement here, and it's
Yeah.
not. I am genuinely that excited about how much change has happened in just 1 year. First of all, it's a dream come true for me to have somebody else, some other organization figure out how to do that transaction. I read Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week back in 2006, and I fell in love with the idea, the differential of currency and how to work that way. So I just never could figure out how to put all the dots together. So that part is amazing. Um, what's interesting about working virtually, especially with someone who's, significantly in a significantly different time zone, is that it requires time blocking and it requires some foresight. So we meet 3 times a week, briefly. I mean, usually 10 or 15 minutes max. It's a quick review. It's making sure we're on the same page. But what's interesting about that is I am not constantly being interrupted by an assistant who, hey, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? So that lack of constant interruption is a surprising benefit that I wouldn't have even thought of. It's interesting, you know, I meet with my VA at 6 p.m. my time. It's 9 a.m. her time. Um, so I'm going into the shutdown mode. It's time to go to sleep. And it's so fascinating to notice how those parts of my brain that would want to stay awake and be concerned about things actually relax and go to sleep, because it's like, hey, this other person is going to handle it. And it's also given me a much greater sense of control of my time and my boundaries with people, because not everyone is wired this way. I'm wired for immediate response. You text me, you're probably going to hear back within a minute. you know, um, that was at least my way before. If you email me, and so I would tend to be constantly in that interrupt. I would interrupt myself, And so having this, as you said, the asynchronous schedule, it's helped me slow down and go, wait a minute, I can respond or let my VA respond in a much more reasonable manner. And so it's helping me on a personal level, psychology level of saying, hey, my time's important and I don't have to fill it with constant instant responses. I have one last thing to say, and that is if you're on the fence about working with Katuva, I would invite you to take the step across the line because, yeah, there are fears. It's like, how is this going to impact my cash flow? Do I have time to figure this out? I would invite you to trust the process, and don't look for results that make this kind of story I just told happen within the first 2 weeks. Give it 6 months at least. About the 6 month mark is when I notice things really starting to change. It takes a while to shift out of old patterns and to even have your creative imagination begin to identify other things you can let go of that will help you do more of what you want.